Elon Musk has decided that he's not buying Twitter for some reason. Well, for bots. I think this has all been a part of a essentially 4D chess plan in which Elon Musk has pulled people's strings and actually made them dance to his tune. I think that the fruition of his plan is just beginning to bloom now. But before that, if you want to support us, you can go to lotus.com and check out our latest book club. This is one that I did with Thomas Dowling, who came in for an episode on Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. I think this is really interesting and remarkably timely for people to read. Now, reading it is a different matter because Nietzsche writes like a maniac and he's difficult to understand on purpose. But me and Thomas did a good job, I think, and it's worth your time because...
I can endorse that. I disagree with some of the conclusions in it, but I can definitely endorse it's a valid, worth time watching.
Yes, it's not necessarily about endorsing or not endorsing or disavowing. It's more about understanding that there are multiple ways of looking at morality, and he does have a valid interpretation. And the thing is, it appears to me that the critical race theorists are essentially following this interpretation, or one of them. And so it's important to be aware of. We'll be doing on the genealogy of morals at some point in the next coming weeks. Anyway, so going back a few months, you may remember that when Elon Musk said, look, I'm going to buy Twitter and I can actually pony up the capital to do it, he caused a great deal of, as Yahoo say, freaking out. Sorry, it was the Daily Beast, this one. The internal employees of Twitter were not happy about this. Now, the New York Times actually did a poll of the internal employees, of 200 employees, and found that 27% of them hated Musk, 27% of them loved him, and 44% were neutral, which is surprising. I thought it would have been a more homogenous culture within Twitter. Actually.
I don't think so, because the most vocal are obviously the HR departments. The majority of people actually making the thing operate are the engineers. And I would, if they're like James Damore, who circulated his internal memo, and was incredibly based, I think they're keeping their heads down. But as soon as they're asked and they're anonymized, they'll say, actually, we quite agree with them.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. But lots of the employees who are, as you say, the sort of HR department employees, went on social media and just under their own names started complaining that Elon Musk is a troll and he's essentially the Donald Trump of big tech and they hate him.
Chad, yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. And you may remember in May he said, well, the deal is on hold, temporarily at least, because I want to know that fewer than 5% of the users on the site are spam accounts, fake accounts, or bots. And Twitter was like, of course, that would be crazy to say that our website's mostly populated by bots, because they said that they'd formed an internal review of sample accounts and estimated that an average of false spam accounts were fewer than 5%. It was 229 monetizable daily active users.
They're just frantically deleting FBPE accounts as we speak.
Yes. But what's interesting about this is the framing, right? So remember that Elon Musk didn't approach purchasing Twitter with the eye of making it a profitable business. He's the richest man in the world. What does he need a profitable business for? He approached it with the eye of politics, as in it was going to be a free speech platform. He was approaching it from the concern of morality, that it was unfair that Twitter had banned Donald Trump, frankly, and various other people, and was clearly loading the way that the algorithm works. So some people got a lot more reach than others because of their political persuasion. And so it's interesting how he approached the situation by saying, well, look, I can offer you a massive deal, $44 billion, which is profitable for your shareholders, that's going off the reservation somewhat. His concern is for morality, but now he attacks them economically. And of course, at first, they refused this because they recognized that he was approaching the purchasing of Twitter as a moral crusade in some way. And yet he outflanked them by saying, well, look, you're a business. You don't have a choice. You can't refuse this massive increase in money that your shareholders will receive as their dividends, because that's what a business is for. And so they were essentially kind of forced to go, oh, okay, good point. And so the Twitter board unanimously voted, yes, okay. And then he appears to have sort of pulled the lure out from their mouths and said, well, hang on a second. Is that the case? And they were saying, well, no, of course not. This is exactly how it is. And so we fast forward to 3 days ago when he terminated the Twitter deal. So, okay, this is huge because, we're talking about massive amounts of money in the most politically relevant platform and how things are now. So he said he was terminating the deal. and this has had a massive impact on Twitter's shares, which when he made the offer, they were something like $51 a share. Sorry, no, $54 a share. Now they're down to $34 a share. So you can see how just, again, most of it is just Elon just saying things has really affected this platform.
It's funny that they do to compare him to Trump, because it's in the art of the deal. He obviously goes for the big ask, where you oversell, over demand in your initial opening, and then you get at least half of what you want from that.
Yeah.
So he made that tactic, and then if you notice, President Trump, God bless him, any transgression against him, he goes full on scorched earth on their reputation. And so Elon is seeing them as having slighted him, and so he has, they swallowed their poison pill. Now they're feeling the effects of hemlock.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. They took what was known as a poison pill to try and prevent this, but that didn't work. And so, so now Elon Musk is threatening to, well, he's apparently trying to terminate the deal. So this was in a legal filing. Musk's lawyers said that Twitter had failed or refused to respond to multiple requests for information on fake or spam accounts on the platform, which is fundamental to the company's business performance. Again, notice the two different layers that we're talking about here. Elon Musk talks about Twitter in moral terms whenever he references it outside of the business and economic side of things. And this is important because he's using the economic side of things to advance this moral agenda. So this filing claimed that Twitter is in a material breach of multiple provisions of the buyout deal that they had agreed because the board had unanimously voted. Turned out they basically realized, Christ, we're a bit outflanked here. Our shareholders can complain if we don't take this massive increase on the share value price. And so now him pulling back is essentially springing a trap on them, it seems. So they, as he says, for nearly 2 months, Mr. Musk has sought the data and information necessary to make an independent assessment of the prevalence of fake or spam accounts on Twitter's platform. Twitter has failed or refused to provide this information. Sometimes Twitter has ignored Mr. Musk's requests, and sometimes it has rejected them for reasons that appear to be unjustified, and sometimes it has claimed to comply while giving him incomplete or unusable information. As in, there's an opaqueness to Twitter. They are hiding something. And so Elon Musk can abandon the moral argument and move to the business argument and say, well, I'm approaching this platform as a plan to make it economically viable, and he has laid out publicly what his plans to make it an economically viable platform are. And so then Twitter were like, well, hang on a second, you can't just withdraw now from this massive deal that we agreed to and promised our shareholders, so we're going to sue you to force you to buy it, which is very interesting. The Twitter board is committed to closing the transaction on the price and the terms agreed upon by Mr. Musk, and plans to pursue legal action to enforce the merger agreement, said Twitter's chairman Brett Taylor. We are confident that we'll prevail in the Delaware Court of Chancery. And so I read this article from Business Insider. If we go to the next one, Delaware's they all register in Delaware because it's got tax exemptions.
Also Joe Biden's state. It
is also Joe Biden's state. That's very interesting, isn't it? But so various academics and experts weighed in on this, saying, well, I don't really understand what's going on. It's like, no, I bet you don't. But what's interesting, though, is that when Elon Musk offered to buy this, he offered it for $44 billion. They reckon now it's worth $28 billion. So that's at least $6 or $7 billion, I think, knocked off the original price before he made his offer. So isn't it interesting how he's kind of like ruining the platform by doing all of this? This is very clearly part of a game.
It reminds me very much them turning around and then forcing him to buy it when obviously all of their shareholders didn't want him to originally, including a Saudi prince who we're not going to take lectures on morality from. Reminds me of the old Looney Tunes cartoon where Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny are going rabbit season, duck season, and Bugs Bunny just goes rabbit season, and then Daffy Duck goes duck season, fire, and gets himself shot.
Yes.
It's
yes.
You guys you're building the noose for your own neck here. It's quite funny.
Yeah, exactly. And so essentially they point out, well, he's made a commitment and the company isn't worth that now. So yeah, sure. But the question about Twitter was never one about money. And I mean, Elon was quite clear about this.
It's not about money. It's about sending a message.
Exactly. They say a group of experts told Insider on Saturday that Twitter has the edge in its dispute with Musk, but the company was more likely to try and negotiate a lower sum. Oh, really? You've got the edge, but you're like, yeah, well, you don't have to pay us quite as much. You can pay us less for the ownership of our company that we didn't want you to have, and that we're going to have to reveal a bunch of secrets about in a court.
Huh. They're almost treating it sort of like a monkey's paw style thing of where they both agree that it's a utility for the public political discourse. Musk is looking at it in the John Stuart Mill utilitarian tradition of it's our medium for conflict resolution, so we want it to be open and transparent. The progressives are looking at it, and Agrawal and all that, and all those people that didn't have any shares but were on the board as diversity hires, they're all looking at it as a way to enforce the hegemon.
Yeah, political weapon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the progressives realize, okay, with that wish, we've now got so many headaches, and because we're incompetent and we didn't build the thing to start with, so we've inherited something so we can't run it, that you can take it and you might get what you wish for, but we hope you fall afoul of the same things that we have.
It would be easier for us to just let you have it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that is just the company is likely trying to negotiate a lower sum. That's very interesting. And as they said there, they just want to resolve the uncertainty. See, now this is very interesting. Elon Musk has essentially got them dancing to his tune by continuing to pull and push and make them live in this world of uncertainty. Now they're essentially begging for him to take over, and they're going to take legal action, so he has to take over. I mean, that is just remarkable.
He's weaponized the progressives' own anxiety against them.
Yes. And you notice that they've been doing what everyone wants anyway. Lots of people that I know have had their accounts unbanned.
Right.
Still waiting for mine, Elon.
Well, this is the interesting thing from this week. Obviously, we can't say anything about it yet, but Alex Berenson, the journalist who was banned for views on the COVID vaccine, he brought a lawsuit against Twitter and was reinstated.
Yes.
And on his Substack, he said that the US government had been interfering with it, and this is in the Epoch Times I'm reading from. Elon Musk asked him, "Can you say more about this pressures that the government may have placed on Twitter?" And Berenson said, "Due to the NDA, I can't, but I hopefully will report on it in the future."
Very interesting, isn't it? So there's how to describe it? He's got hold of something, and if he pulls, a lot of gross things are going to come out that are attached to this. And so Twitter have been taking action. They've been laying off 30% of their talent acquisition team. They've been laying off, several senior executives quit. Lots of chaos in Twitter itself. And it's told its employees apparently not to say anything publicly about anything. If you go to the next one, Twitter is telling its employees that they cannot comment on the issue in public because this is all going through the courts. And one company insider told NBC that Musk had, quote, effing destroyed the company. That's very interesting.
I mean, financially, sure.
But also intellectually, morally,
yes,
it looks like something's going to come out. And so Elon began tweeting about this. It's just fascinating. If you can open up this image, John. They said I couldn't buy Twitter. Then they wouldn't disclose bot info. Now they want to force me to buy it in court. Now they have to disclose the info in the court.
Him looking at the real bot numbers is like, is that real? Haha.
And the thing is, I don't think he cares about the bots at all.
Well, obviously not, because the only reason you would care about bots, beyond the unhealthiness of the conversation, the reason you care about bot numbers is because if you have a high proportion of bots than reported, then your ad revenue isn't worth as much. But as you already said, he's not buying it for financial means.
And also, I mean, he was talking about having a subscription service and things like that. He's not interested in using this as an advertising platform because 229 million users makes Twitter one of the smallest tech giants that could exist. It's actually a really, really tiny platform. It's the nexus, though. It's the importance of it. And his view on monetizing it isn't even based around adverts. So it's just very interesting how Elon is now going to has essentially made it. So Twitter is going to force him into court so they can show everyone what they have. And so everyone can now see whether they're lying or not. And he put out this meme as well, which I think is hilarious. It's Chuck Norris with one piece on a chessboard. And he replied to that with Chuckmate. So, I mean, well done, Elon. It appears that you've got what you wanted. I look forward to finding out about this. The Daily Mail published an article just with a couple of important caveats to this. What's interesting about the Chancery Court is they can't actually order punitive damages or anything like this. So I don't know how much can actually be resolved here. But if they are going to take him to the court and they're going to have some sort of discovery of information to prove their case, well, this can only get more interesting. So it looks very much to me like Elon Musk is playing 4D chess, and it looks like he's winning, actually. So good for Elon.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the hangouts we do sometimes that are premium, with Gatekeeping Works, the last one we did between me and Carl on Warhammer 40,000, of course. And you want to follow what else Carl's putting out, you can follow him on Getter at Carl Benjamin on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.